Greetings, and welcome to the Abyss. When in the need to feel anew, it's time to make some goddess brew. We're making our own herbal tea today, y'all.
Here is what you will need to make your own herbal tea at home. Behold the bounty of my garden! I decided to grow all my own herbal tea this year, which feels very Victorian apothecary. The plants include chocolate mint, peppermint, lemon balm, spearmint, lemon verbena, and lavender, among other things. It's time to harvest, and even though I'm sick...
The garden waits for no man!
But Kat, you say, can't I make tea with fresh herbs?
Yes.
But I'm growing them in bulk to last me through the winter. That means preserving and storing them. The best way to do that is with a food dehydrator. If you don't own a dehydrator but want to experiment, don't feel like you have to drop a lot of money on one.
Subscribe!
I got mine for $10 off of Facebook Marketplace. After he handed it to me, he said, "Hey, do you ever think about Jesus?"
Jesus. I like him very much.
I'm starting with harvesting the chocolate mint and peppermint. Again, I was sick when I filmed this, so...
I'm too depressed to work a zipper, alright? Get over it.
Most herbs tend to grow better the more you harvest them. Best practice is to trim them multiple times over the growing season, which will keep them producing. On each branch I trim, I'm leaving 1 to 2 sets of leaves behind. Next, you want to very thoroughly rinse off your herbs. There are bugs in there for sure. Shake off the majority of the water, but you don't have to dry them completely. Load up the racks. Place the herbs in a single layer, leaving room for the air to circulate around them. If you don't have a dehydrator, you can also do this in your oven as long as it will set lower than 180 degrees. You want to mummify them, not cook them. Mine only goes down to 170, which would work. The lower, the better. These two herbs look almost identical once dry, so I'm keeping them on separate racks to remember which is which. The racks are full and we're ready to go. All you do is put the racks on the machine and turn it on. Ta-da! While the herbs dry for the next 2 to 3 hours, I'm prepping a jar for the peppermint. You can store your tea in jars, plastic storage containers, or even a zipper bag. It needs to be airtight, clean, and most importantly, dry. If moisture gets in your container, your tea can mold and all your hard work will be in vain. I'm soaking the jar in hot water to loosen the paper label, then scraping it off with a butter knife. To get the glue off, I spray down the jar with Goo Gone, let it sit for a few minutes, then wipe it off with a paper towel. Then use dish soap and water to get the Goo Gone off. But Kat, you say, my jar still smells like the legions of the undead. How do I get the smell out?
I'm so glad you asked.
Submerge the metal lid in warm soapy water for a few hours, but for the jar...
You know what takes the smell out of glass? The sun.
Just set the empty jar in direct sunlight for a few hours and any leftover odors will be gone. It's been 2 hours and the mints are dry. You can tell because the leaves are brittle and disintegrate between your fingers like your hopes and dreams. Dump out one type of herb on a piece of parchment paper. Starting at the base of the stem, lightly run your fingers up the stem to the top. The dried leaves will crumble right off. Put the stems off to the side and finish the rest. Once you're done, gather all the leaves in the middle of the parchment paper and fold it over. Use your hands to crush the leaves the same way you crush your enemies. Both are equally satisfying.
I love that.
You can then use the parchment paper to gather up the herbs and transfer them directly to the jar. Now we start over. Lemon balm, another member of the mint family, but it tastes like fresh lemon. Wash it, rack it, on the dehydrator for 2 to 3 hours. Strip it, crush it, and jar it. With lavender, you want to make sure you only cut where the stem is still green, not woody. This ensures it will grow back properly. Wash it, rack it. Lavender leaves are great in tea as well, so leave them on there. On the dehydrator for 2 to 3 hours. Lavender strips a little differently. The leaves come off the same, but to remove the flower buds, you have to roll them between your fingers a little bit. Don't forget to save those stems. Fire up those teapots and let's drink some herbal tea.
And sip, don't slurp.
Making a single cup? Maybe use a disposable tea bag. Use the ratio of a rounded teaspoon per 8 ounces of hot water. This is a larger mug, so I'm using about 1.5 teaspoons of dried rosemary and some fresh lemon verbena leaves. Draw the strings closed and steep for 3 to 5 minutes. Another way to make a single cup is with a tea infuser. Use the same ratio and add it to the basket. I'm using lemon balm. It's a tea frog. Get it? A tea frog? Like a tree frog? Making a whole pot? Dump in a rounded teaspoon per cup of water that it holds. I'm using chocolate mint and lavender. When it's done steeping, strain it as it pours into the cup. Now, fire up your coals, my witches. All those stems you saved, you can burn them like incense, and they smell amazing. You can burn some of the herbs you just dried, and some fresh ones too while you're at it. As an added bonus, some lavender stems will burn just like stick incense, but be sure to leave them over a sink or some other non-flammable surface. I do not burn these in my regular incense holder.
I hope you enjoyed watching me make my own herbal tea. This is how to goth up anything, and I'm Cat Downs.